You guys see that we finally found a refugee group white enough for us to care about them? It's really funny. It's a huge virtue signal, right? We're talking, like, America is a big old country, right? We've got room for a lot of people here. And honestly, pretty much everything west of, like, Indiana is, like, pretty barren, except for the actual West Coast. I mean, we got room for a lot of people here. We're deporting so many people, as we have been for a long time, even before the Trump administration. So I'm not actually concerned about like the demographic or ethnic sort of like ramifications of welcoming Afrikaners or whatever into the United States. It is very funny, though, as a neo-Nazi virtue signal. Did Israel not want them? That's a good question. It is very funny. This is so like 2016 racist core. This is very Lauren Southern core. It's just old hat. You know what I mean? It's wild that our government is pursuing a white nationalist agenda that is very clearly informed by neo-Nazi internet memes. You know? You get what I mean, right? Well, anyway, here's Trump being asked about it. And Trump, of course, doesn't know about or give a shit about South Africa. So he's been told this information by somebody. Odds are it's either Elon Musk or Stephen Miller, you know, no surprises there, the usual suspects.
Who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States, right, where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, you know, we're supposed to have I guess, a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference.
Yeah, whether they're white or black, it makes no difference. But out of curiosity, how many black people are being led into the country via this expedited refugee process? This 2011's white farmers meme? Yeah, it's, again, like, this is being done as a Nazi virtue signal. It has very little to do with any actual policy. There's a specific class of white supremacists who's very, very upset about South Africa because it was a relatively recent defeat for their ideology, right? South Africa had for a very long time been controlled effectively as a apartheid colony by white South Africans, and within recent memory that changed, and they're still mad about it, you know? They would be doing the same thing with Rhodesia if Rhodesia still existed and hadn't, you know, turned into Zimbabwe. The vast majority of white South Africans are going to stay in South Africa because if you're white and in South Africa, your life is probably pretty okay. A few very racist white South Africans will come over as refugees. They aren't white South Africans, they're Dutch settlers. Well, they've been there for hundreds of years. They're South Africans. Like, Americans are Americans, even though we're from, like, Germany or whatever. This isn't a question of who belongs in any nation or who deserves to be anywhere. This is just, like, immediate, right? Or, like, what, or you know, like, how do we deal with these political bodies as they exist now? No one knows where the Americans come from. That's true. Don't worry, they're still crying about Rhodesia. Yeah. Greatest war ever fought. Asymmetrical warfare. Guys in short shorts. We know. Yada, 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 yada.
To me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible.
I believe him. I believe him completely and uncritically. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Deputy Secretary of State greets Afrikaner refugees.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to know, there were many, from the BBC, there are many people who are who fit the criteria of seeking help, who are fleeing persecution. Afghans, for example, I mean, they live in a country run by the Taliban. But they're being denied refugee status. So I'm wondering, why has such an exception been made for the Afrikaans, especially when the South African government says they're not in danger? And are you going to open up the refugee settlement program for others?
Thank you for that question. I think you may recall that on the president's first day in office, on January 20th of this year, he issued an executive order that paused U.S. refugee programs that had been going at record levels under the prior administration and had brought in people that we were not sure had been carefully vetted for national security issues, and put a pause on the refugee admission program in general. That pause, of course, was subject from the very beginning to exceptions where it was determined that this would be in the interest of the United States. Some of the criteria are making sure that refugees did not pose any challenge to our national security, and that they could be assimilated easily into our country. So the president on February 7th issued an executive order about the egregious conditions in South Africa, and all of these folks who have just come into...
You know, somebody in chat said this, and I didn't know if they were being serious, but I'm honestly starting to come around on it. This guy is wearing an extremely odd and loud tie, and that tie is in the colors of the apartheid flag of South Africa. It's orange, blue, and white, and I don't think I've ever seen that color combination on a tie, but that was the flag of South Africa before the end of apartheid. That has to be on purpose.
Today have been carefully vetted pursuant to our refugee standards, and whether or not the broader refugee programs for other people around the world will be lifted is still an ongoing consideration. But again, the president has recognized the dire situation of this particular group of people, and again, they went through the process.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Anglican Church cut ties with the U.S. government because it refused to call Afrikaners refugees. Wasn't it? It wasn't the Anglican. It was the Episcopal Church. Ended a 4-decade-old relationship between the federal government and the Episcopal Church. Episcopal. I know. I always mispronounce it. Yeah, the Episcopal Church has resettled refugees that come into America. They've worked with the government to act as a program to sort of distribute and integrate refugees, and they're cutting ties over this, which is pretty base, to be honest. Anyway, yeah, just very soy, very 4chan, white supremacist dog whistling. I guess it's not really dog whistling, it's just like explicit white nationalism. Anyway, it's basically guaranteed that all of these white South Africans, not the kids, of course, but the adults, are extremely racist, because they're the ones who would have sought this out and come over to America in this way. So they're probably going to end up being like minor celebrities. You can expect to see them on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. I'm sure one of them will get elevated by the Trump administration, and their main job will be to talk about the horrors of like black people abroad or something. You get me. You know. Gonna be a whole program. DEI, unironically, yeah. Newsom wants to purge the homeless, by the way. Yeah, I know. That's like the one thing I know about Newsom. Anyway, base Trump for doing like white resettlement and decolonialization of South Africa or something type shit. Thank you, based third worldist Trump, for finally bringing the whitey home. And by home, I mean to a country that was colonized by white people like 300 years ago, but you know. What matters is that they're having fun. Will they do the same thing with Israelis? I mean, like, we kind of are as national policy right now, right?